This morning I want to talk about signs on the way to heaven. And I was inspired to talk about this because of some signs that I saw, especially in England. England is, of course, this uses the same language, but they have different terminology at times, especially in directions. They tend to use more simplistic or literal language maybe. And we just were like, wow, that's different, that's different, that's different. And so we started taking pictures of different signs. And some of them kind of relate to the spiritual journey. And so you might want to humor me a little bit with this, but there's spiritual applications that you can draw from some of the signs that we saw. This sign is not really a sign on the way to heaven, but this is one of the things that we saw on a store. Can anyone think of what the representative store in America would be? The Dollar Tree, yes. Poundland. What's the currency in England? Pounds. So you don't go to the dollar store in England, you go to the Poundland. Okay. And we went in and it looked like a dollar store. That's what it was, Poundland. No tipping. Now, in regard to tipping at restaurants, I asked somebody that we're with that we took out to eat, in England here, what's a good tip? And what do you think they said? In America, what's a good tip? About 20%. Well, I heard there 10% was a good tip. They'd be thrilled with 10%. In fact, a lot of places in Europe, they don't even tip. It's not even common at all for tipping. But we saw this sign by a bridge. No tipping. You get fined 50,000 pounds for tipping. Is this a different kind of tipping? Yeah. What is this? No, not tipping on the bridge. It wasn't that kind of a bridge. No jumping? No. No. It means no dumping. No throwing trash into the river. So you get fined. Basically no littering, There's another sign we saw, no fly tipping. So that's like on the fly. In other words, taking your dump, taking your junk, taking your trash, and just dumping it just here and there, wherever. Don't fly tip. Don't litter, we see. So anyway, a different kind of language they use. Okay, this was actually in Italy. This was in an elevator. So they have a sense of humor there, apparently, on this particular hotel we stayed at. Magically activated lift, which is an elevator. A lift is an elevator. Swipe your card over the reader and witness a true miracle. and this is still in the elevator. Okay, so I zoomed up here. This was in that elevator. The sky is our limit, let's go there. Choose us because we lift you up. Let's go high. Bring me to the next level. Higher, 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 to the moon and back. Push me up. May we forever aspire to lift each other up and enjoy the lovely journey to the sky. Anyway, I was tickled by all these little messages in the elevator there in Milan, Italy. We were. All right, so this is the more spiritual application. On the road of life, on our way to heaven, we're going to see signs. Right? So one sign we saw there was narrow road ahead. And we were on Broad Street. So what do you think I thought? Okay, The Bible talks about a narrow road and a broad road. Jesus said, enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and few find it. So let's find the narrow road. And Jesus says, I am the way. No one comes to the Father except through me. And Jesus told his disciples, anyone would come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. A lot of people weren't willing to do that. But we have to follow Jesus. He is the way to heaven. Isaiah 35, and the highway will be there, and it will be called the way of holiness. That's the narrow way, the way of holiness. It will be for those who walk on that way. The unclean will not journey on it. Wicked fools will not go about on it. So let's stay on the way of holiness, the narrow way. All right, next sign. What do you think this means? Yeah, we didn't see any yield signs, but we saw give way signs. That's their terminology. I guess that seems more easy to understand. Give way. Let other people go first. Yield. And I thought, we need to give way. We need to yield. We need to yield ourselves to God. Do not be stiff-necked as your fathers were, but yield yourselves to the Lord. And then in Romans 6, neither yield ye your members as instruments of unrighteousness unto sin, but yield yourselves unto God, as those that are alive from the dead, and your members as instruments of righteousness unto God. So yield to God, give yourself to God. Let go and let God have his way, right? Give way to God. And then Romans 12, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice. That's that yielding, presenting yourself. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of our mind. So next time you see that yield sign, think, I'm going to yield myself to God. Not just other people, but to God himself. Oh, here's another sign. What do you think that means? This sign here. What's that? What is that? What is that object that I took a picture of?
Garbage can.
Yes, a garbage can. So, what would we label a garbage can? Trash. Well, they say litter. Well, we use litter, but we use litter in terms of like just throwing things, like in their sense of tipping or dumping. But this is where you put your litter in a litter box. Cats use litter boxes, don't they? That's right. This is, okay, so how can we spiritually apply litter? What do we need to do to our trash? What do we need to do with the filth of our lives, the sin of our lives? Get rid of it. Throw it away. James 1, so get rid of every filthy habit and all wicked conduct. Submit yourselves to God and accept the word he plants in your heart. So get rid of the filth. This wasn't in on the road, but this was in a bathroom. Have you ever seen it worded just like that? Now wash your hands, please. That's pretty clear and direct. I think what terminology do we see in bathrooms? But anyway, wash your hands. Yeah. Does the Bible talk about clean hands? Clean hands and a pure heart. Who shall ascend the hill of the Lord? Speaking of a journey. Who will stand in his holy place? He who has clean hands and a pure heart. He will receive blessing from the Lord. Right, next. Way out. What word would we use here? Exit. I saw no exit signs in England. Way out. We're in the subway. We're in the underground. We have the underground trains that take you into the city. And you see these way outs. Way out. No exits. Way out. On the roads too, yeah. Yep. The way out. I don't know that we saw way-ins, but we saw way outs. All right. What does the Bible say about way out? A way out. A way out of temptation? There's no temptation taken you, but such as is common to man. But God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that ye are able, but will with the temptation also make a way of escape, that we can bear it. All right, so take the way out. Don't succumb to the temptation. There is an exit. There's an exit ramp in regard to temptation. Ready for the next one? Humps. Humps. What do they refer to? The speed bumps. The bumps. We call them speed bumps. They call them humps. Okay?
I have seen just recently, I was down in Covington, they were speed humps.
You saw speed humps?
Because they're
bigger?
wider, not just a bump.
Okay, so they called the bigger bumps humps. All right. So we're gonna face humps and bumps, both, right? The little bumps and the big bumps in our lives, and I think another word for them are trials. And we all face those things. How does God tell us how to deal with the humps of life? Of course, the traffic people, they want you to slow down. Slow down. Take it easy over those bumps, right? But James tells us to count it all joy when we meet trials of various kinds, whether the little bumps or the bigger humps. For you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. What's this? What word would we use on a sign instead of diversion? Detour, yeah. Detour. We saw no detour signs, but we saw diversion signs. So we were diverted. Can we be diverted from the things that we ought to be doing? Can Satan bring up things that would distract us, sideline us, sidetrack us? Yeah. I liked the way that Nehemiah dealt with a potential diversion. His enemy, when he was building the wall of Jerusalem, he had some enemies that said, "Come down and talk to us. We want to have a meeting with you." And Nehemiah said, "I sent messages unto them saying, I am doing a great work so that I cannot come down. Why should the work cease while I leave it and come down to you?" In other words, I'm going to stay focused. I'm going to stay on task. I'm going to do what God's called me to do. I'm not going to get distracted. Think about the day that we're living in right now. All of the distractions, all of the diversions. Let's be careful with that. There's a letter that Martin Luther wrote to his friend Armsdorf. This was in regards to this Erasmus of Rotterdam. This was in his bondage of the will. He said this, "Thus have I replied to your letter, my friend Armsdorf, though perhaps I've been too long and tedious. But I wish to show you why I judged it best not to answer Erasmus any farther. I am moreover abundantly engaged in teaching, confirming, correcting, and governing my flock. And my work of translating the Bible alone requires the devotion of my whole time, from which work Satan with all his might endeavors to withdraw me, as he has done on former occasions, that he might get me to leave the best things, to follow after those things which are nothing but vain and empty vapors." I wonder how much work God has called us to do that hasn't gotten done because we were distracted to vain and empty vapors. God, help us to stay focused on what God wants us to do. And look at what Martin Luther accomplished. Translation, he got that translation done, right, into German. And wow, what he accomplished. All right, a couple more here. Blind spot, take care. This is on a truck. Now, what would we see that would be similar to that is worded a little bit differently?
This truck makes 5 turns.
Yeah. I've seen the blind spot sign. But we don't say take care. I mean, that's a lot of times we'll say that as a passing, greeting. Take care. Take care. What do they mean by this?
Caution.
Yeah, be cautious. Be careful. Take care. And that means take care. Take care of yourself, we say, but they're serious. Be careful. Take care. You're in a blind spot. Take care. And do we need to be concerned about blind spots that maybe we have? Do we have all knowledge? Should we be praying about things that we may be ignorant of, that we're doing, that may be wrong, but we're still doing it? There's a couple verses I wanted to bring up here. "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Point out anything in me that offends you, and lead me along the path of everlasting life." There may be something that you're doing that's displeasing to God, and so, you should go to God, and I should go to God and say, "God, if there's anything that I'm doing, I don't know of anything, but please help me know." And maybe other people can help you with this, right? Ask them, what are some of my blind spots? What am I ignorant of that I need to know about? And then how can I know all the sins lurking in my heart? Cleanse me from these hidden faults. Keep your servant from deliberate sins. Don't let them control me. Then I will be free of guilt, innocent of great sin. All right, to sum this up, here's another sign I saw. Please drive carefully. On your road of life, on your way to heaven, don't get distracted or diverted. Be careful over the bumps. Yield yourself to God. Ask God to help you with the blind spots. Know that there's a way out of every temptation. And stay on the narrow way. All right? Drive carefully. I'll leave you with, this was the favorite sign I think I saw. This was actually at a college that we visited called Cliff College. This was of course, the verse on a wagon that they used to pull around and preach the gospel with. God loved the world so much that he gave his son Jesus to us, so that if we believe in him, we shall have everlasting life. Do you have that life? Have you trusted Him? Are you on your way to heaven? Do you know Him in a personal way? Because that's what everlasting life means, right? A personal relationship with Jesus that continues on and on in a dynamic relationship, even into eternity. So let's surrender ourselves to God. Stay on that narrow way, all right? And someday we'll see each other in heaven. I'm going to close with a song that relates to that thought of surrender.